Of the national authorities, the Deputy Minister of Correctional Services, Thabang Makwetla, visited the facility to conduct an assessment of the living conditions of the inmates. Earlier this week, inmates embarked on a hunger strike over safety concerns. They also set bedding alight in some of the cells. They want management to deal with overcrowding, amongst other things. Lubabalo Dada caught up with the Deputy Minister.
We have just came out of the East London prison cells with the Deputy Minister for Correctional Services, who is here to assess the situation himself after inmates of this facility complained about the living conditions. Early this week, they have embarked on a hunger strike, complaining about the living conditions of this area. But I am joined by the Minister now, who's going to tell us what has he observed. Thank you for joining us, Deputy Minister, and tell us, from the time you came in, you were allowed to see what sort of damage was caused when the inmates went on rampage.
Yes, what we've observed is that, accommodation space that is taking care of plus minus 80 inmates has been, put out of action, destroyed. It's unfortunate, and as you have just said, that this happened when there was an upheaval here by inmates on the 4th of December who bent mattresses and they set the mattresses alight and threw them out through the windows. And when those mattresses were burning, the corridors were burned, the electricity and the lamps of cells and the corridors were banned, so that area cannot be used. The grievances, we are told that, among others, they include the services that they are getting from our kitchen here. They include the prices of goods that they buy from the tuck shop that is here, but they also include, grievances around, health services. Some of the issues that are raised, they are subjective, weaknesses. We believe something can be done about them. Much as the offenders want to have private catering to be in charge of the kitchen, we can't afford that. We don't have the budgets, but we think we can improve how the kitchen is managed, the cleanliness of the kitchen, the people who are working there in terms of the skills levels, in terms also of the equipment that we are using. For instance, the utensils that we are using, they are saying that they want utensils similar to the ones that are used by, private, catering companies. We can do something about that. With respect to the high prices of the tuck shops, we also believe that the system of our tuck shops can be reviewed with the aim to bring down the markup on the prices of the goods we sell. Because I hear that in the markup there are considerations that include kind of mobilizing some resources for the recreation of offenders and officers, something which I don't think, if offenders are very upset about what they end up paying for these goods, it's something we should just be obstinate about. We can review that system. Of course, there are other challenges which are challenges that are beyond our control. They want to willy-nilly be taken out to health centers outside of the of our correctional center here. And the practice is that the procedure is that we only refer cases that cannot be dealt with in-house, where we do not have this specialized medical services. Of course, immediately what we do is that we refer the offenders for treatment outside, but they want to be sent outside willy-nilly, and that we do not have the the resources to do in that.
All right. Another issue which they raised is the issue of overcrowding in the cells. And what is your response with regards to that? And also, how rife is it? I'm talking about in other prisons across the country?
You have seen for yourself the overcrowding is a serious problem. This maximum prison here has bed spaces just over 800, 1,000 bed spaces officially. But the lockup numbers yesterday, as of yesterday, the 4th of, as of the 6th of December, it was about 1,400, just over 1,400 offenders. So almost 80%, overcrowded. It is a problem. Some of these offenders, they've been moved from St. Albans. And St. Albans, as you are aware, is one of our big 5 correctional centers. It is an effort to try and reduce overcrowding by moving, offenders, to low-density, correctional centers. At St. Albans, it's worse. So we have discussed as a department our program to increase, bed spaces, our infrastructure program. It's not been doing well, and in the past weeks, we have been sitting on it, having meetings after meetings to improve planning and the optimization of the resources government puts in the hands of correctional services, which has been our weakness. And of course, the other thing again is that we do want to make communities aware that we're not going to deal with this problem by building more correctional centers. By building more jails, we're not solving anything. The problem is upstream. It is the dysfunctionality of more citizens' residences in our communities, in our society, that we must deal with. That's why we say corrections is a societal problem. And the more we shift focus to the upstream end of this problem, we will begin to win the war.
And then the issue of prison uprising and corruption, how rife is it?
Well, the problem of corruption, I've made the point when we're launching Operation Valor on Monday that we are again making a mistake to forget that South Africa's employees in the Department of Correctional Services come from South Africa's communities. What is happening in our communities? The problem of corruption that everybody is wailing about, there's no way that they can become immune to it. If the culture in our townships, in our villages, is of people who are seeking better lives overnight, taking shortcuts, they also are watching, and they are also tempted to actually do exactly that. So now and again, you have then officers in some of our correctional centers, not the majority of them, a few will always be there, who collaborate with offenders to plan escapes and so on, because they then get money for that. Some of them will be involved in the moving in of contraband into the centers, drugs and all kind of things, to try and make lots of monies that they will not get out of their salaries. So the challenge to deal with corruption, it's a challenge of South Africans, and it impacts on all spheres of our life. Correctional centers, it's just one of them.
And then lastly, before I let you go, Deputy Minister, do you think that the complaints that the inmates are raising, are they genuine or not?
There are genuine complaints, but there are other complaints which are not genuine. You can see that it is an attempt by inmates to try and push back the authority of management, because, as I'm saying, they have come here, they've just been moved from centers where things were done in particular ways. They want to impose what they know to become the norm here, and that is unacceptable.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much.